Talking about Monkey Island 2 isn't an easy task. Both as a follow-up to the impeccable Secret of Monkey Island and as its own adventure game, there's a lot of ground to cover. And then there's that ending. Oh boy. There's probably a reason why most people just do a video on the first game. I honestly don't blame them. This game's a lot harder to write about. It is interesting though, as development actually started on this one without the full knowledge of LucasArts higher-ups. Ron Gilbert had already proven he had something great under his belt, and decided it'd be better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. Tim Schafer and Dave Grossman were back too, so the band was back together to build upon what worked in Monkey Island 1 and perhaps experiment a bit too. And oh man, they did experiment. This one is much stranger. It doesn't surprise me that this one has a bit of a different vision behind it. After all, when you haven't got anything to prove, there's room to take more risks and try different ideas. And they did do that, just not in the ways you might expect. This one isn't a fun piratey romp. It doesn't really try to be fun. It's probably the most cynical the series ever gets. There's this odd undercurrent of bitterness and melancholy to the whole thing, and you know what? I love it. Welcome to Monkey Island 2. Welcome back to Ultimate Monkey Island, which I'm calling a retrospective series because I don't really know what else to call it. If this is somehow the first video you're watching in this series, then this is basically like an in-depth review mixed with a walkthrough / summary, with also some trivia mixed in there and my thoughts on each part of it. It's just this whole thing. This isn't really what I'd call a video essay, but if you're looking for one of those, I'd recommend The Upsetting Secret of Monkey Island by B-Mask, or 3 Short Arguments on the Secret of Monkey Island by Innuendo Studios. Seriously, those are damn good videos that say very interesting and smart things about the series. I'm just the guy going, that's a monkey playing the piano. So yeah, Monkey Island 2. Where do we start? Released only a year after the first game, this one is regarded amongst quite a few fans as the best one. It also has probably one of the most controversial endings in gaming. Not like choose your flavor of explosion controversial, more like a total blinder of an ending that literally divides the fandom. Me, personally, I adore this game. It's not perfect, but it's very good. It pretty much puts into motion what a lot of people love the series for. Sailing between islands, LeChuck returning in new forms, and that blue coat. Once again, I'll be using the Ultimate Talkie modded version of the game. Though it's worth noting that the second game's version isn't quite finished. You can absolutely play the game from start to finish with the voice acting though, which is the main thing that I'm looking for. It's just missing the sound effects that the first Ultimate Talkie had. And to be honest, I wasn't really sure how I felt about those anyway. Though I would like to talk briefly about the special edition for this game because it's much better than the special edition for Monkey Island 1. I think the reason for this, and I didn't touch upon this last time, is that the Monkey Island 1 remake didn't really have a budget behind it, or the approval of LucasArts to make. I can kind of forgive it for being a little bit less than what it could have been in that instance. As for Monkey Island 2, the special edition has a lot more polish, and I'd even say it was worth playing. It's good. The character designs are much better for one thing, and the animations also tended to be a lot smoother. Not to mention the interface is a lot better than Monkey Island 1's remake too. Something else I didn't mention there is how finicky the new interface made some of the puzzles. I mean, if it's easier to switch back to classic mode, then you've utterly failed the streamlining process. So yeah, on the whole, the Monkey 2 remake is a lot more worth your while. That being said, why am I not playing that one this time around? The first reason is simply consistency. I used Ultimate Talkie in the first video, so I wanted to use it for this one too. But it's worth noting that the second remake does allow for original graphics and voices, so I could have potentially used that one, right? Yeah, true. But there is another issue that comes up in regards to the music, but I'll get to that shortly. Instead, let's move on for now. First of all, let's talk about something a little bit different. Copy protection. I couldn't really cover this for my previous episode, because I don't own a physical copy of The Secret of Monkey Island. Yet. Oh, you will be mine one day. However, I did get pretty lucky recently in picking up a big box copy of Monkey Island 2 for a decent price. including the code wheel as well. This may not be news to most of you, but for those who don't know, a lot of old games are tiny puzzles or questions before you could play that required a physical element to get into the game. This could be questions with answers in the manual or something unique like these code wheels. This stopped copied floppies from being passed around as much, because the answers for the copy protection only came with physically bought copies. So let's take a look at these weird little things. Monkey Island 1 had a code wheel that prompted a mix and match of various pirate faces, called Dial a Pirate. You might have seen a play on this code wheel in the Retro Ahoy video thumbnail. Rotating to the correct face type would reveal a date to input in the game. For Monkey Island 2, however, it was based on recipe numbers. You'd get 2 ingredients, rotate the wheel to where it needed to be, and put in the right numbers once again. For something that could have been tedious, they managed to make it fun, and I love this sort of physical element with games as well. There are actually digital recreations of these code wheels now if you want to play with them. I've added a link in the description for you. So, how about the actual game? Monkey Island 2 first starts you off with a difficulty screen, which is a bit unusual for an adventure game. I honestly wouldn't recommend the light version of the game though, as it actually removes entire characters for the sake of making certain puzzles simpler. Captain Kate Capsize and Rum Rogers are both absent in the light version, which means you're missing some great jokes involving both of these characters.
Come here often?
Once too often, obviously.
So just play the regular version. Light is just objectively worse. The game actually begins with a literal cliffhanger. We meet Guybrush Threepwood dangling from a rope when a certain love interest arrives to point and laugh.
Well, well, well. Guybrush Threepwood. You do turn up in the strangest places.
Hi, Elaine.
Or rather, a former love interest. We'll get to that. Elaine prompts Guybrush to explain how he got into this situation, which cues up a title sequence. It's a bit more stylized than the first game's intro, with dancing monkeys, pieces of a map, and a remix of the main theme. There's something about this specific arrangement of the theme which absolutely delights me. All of the themes following this one are much closer to the first games, but this one, it's just different enough to stand out. There's something about the mood it evokes which feels a bit more melancholy somehow. I can't really explain it, but given the type of game Monkey Island 2 is, it honestly kind of fits. Guybrush's tale officially begins on Scab Island, with Guybrush talking up his victory against LeChuck with 2 local pirates.
So I bust into the church and say, "Now you're in for it, you bilious bag of barnacle bait." And then LeChuck cries, "Guybrush, have mercy! I can't take it anymore!"
I think I know how he must have felt.
Only they don't really care. They've heard the story before, from Guybrush, several times. As a matter of fact, Guybrush is kind of washed up now. He has money, but his fame is dwindling. So now he's searching for a new story to surpass his original one, something bigger and bolder. He's searching for a lost treasure.
A treasure so valuable and so well hidden that it haunts the dreams of every pirate on the seas.
You mean... Big Whoop?
These 2 pirates prove to be pretty unhelpful as Guybrush leaves to explore the rest of the island. For now, Guybrush's quest has him stuck on Scab, and that's the drive of the first chapter, getting through the Largo Embargo. Why is it called the Largo Embargo? Well, this guy, Largo Legrand, accosts Guybrush on the bridge and asks him to pay the toll.
This is a toll bridge. You gotta pay.
Largo Legrand, named after the city where Ron Gilbert grew up, is the local bruiser. He's short, grouchy, and likes to take money from unsuspecting saps. Also from the suspecting saps too. He's basically the original Mr. Shakedown. Unfortunately, Guybrush's sly brush with fame has left his pockets loaded and ripe for the picking. So there's no way to avoid this bully from taking every last penny. The island is kinda at Largo's whims, as Guybrush very quickly learns.
Help! Police!
Scream as loud as you want. There's no police on Scab Island.
I kinda love Largo as a character. The Secret of Monkey Island didn't really have any secondary villains, and with LeChuck gone, it's good to have a smaller scale threat. Plus, Largo has a little rhyme about himself, which is weirdly dorky. I dig it.
Remember, wherever you go, on sea or on land, you can't ever hide from Largo Legrand.
What a nerd. This robbery by Largo is very much the start of this game's mean streak, giving you a whole bunch of money and just immediately ripping it from your inventory. You had to work to get money in the first game, so you go in knowing the value of what you've got and what you lose. As for the embargo itself, you soon learn from the residents of the local town that Largo is very much keeping people from sailing away and draining their pockets. They're tired of this brute. It's high time that someone took him down a peg. That's where we come in. But first, we need to get a grasp of the area. Welcome to Woodtick. Woodtick is a collection of flotsam and broken ships which has been turned into a settlement. It's a really memorable area and probably one of my favourites of the series. It looks great. Here there's a bar, an inn, a laundromat, a cartographer and a carpenter. And this is the perfect time for me to introduce yet another LucasArts system. We talked about Scum in Monkey Island 1 and Insane when we discussed Outlaws. But now get ready for iMuse. iMuse stands for Interactive Music Streaming Engine. What this engine allows for is for different versions of a song to organically merge into one another. Woodtick is one of the best examples of this, as there's a unique version of the core Woodtick melody for each little area. What this means is you can move from the main hub with the basic theme into the carpenter's shop, and the basic instruments will shift to have woodworking sounds in the background, and put its own spin on the melody. This system is present throughout the whole game and it's a really nice detail. Background music doesn't just cut out abruptly between area changes, it shifts smoothly with a little flourish. I love it. Such dynamic music systems have been done in a variety of ways since then. I mean, the new Doom games and Portal 2 come to mind, but this is one of the first times it was done, and by gosh it was done well. Tragically, it was an underappreciated system, and as a result was never really recreated to the degree of complexity it was here, because it just wasn't worth the effort. I mean, according to Ron Gilbert, there were something like 2 programmers working full-time just making sure the iMuse transitions worked, and in the end, I guess, it just kinda wasn't worth it. At least I can appreciate them now. Thank you, iMuse programmers. Oh yeah, and the music reason for not using the special edition, it's iMuse. Given the nature of older game music simulating the instruments themselves, that kind of thing is just harder to recreate now. Pre-recorded music just doesn't quite blend as easily. And as good as the re-recorded music for the special edition is, it doesn't quite have the iMuse magic. So anyway, about Largo. We need to know more about him, and we can learn more from the local townsfolk. At the Bloody Lip, the local bar, the owner explains that Largo is scaring off the regulars, and yeah, I can see that. This place is deader than LeChuck, and he's died twice so far. During a conversation with the owner, Largo comes in, and he not only demands a drink, but also spits a viscous green wad of phlegm at the wall, and gets the poor guy to hand over his earnings too. Interestingly, that green drink seems to have served to make Largo's spit thicker, and surprisingly aerodynamic. That might be useful information to know if we ever need to spit long distance. Still, one thing is a constant in this town. Everyone tells you the same thing, which is that the way to fight back is
the voodoo doll of Largo LeGrand.
As it so happens, we did know of someone knowledgeable in the ways of voodoo, but she was all the way back on Marley Island. So unless she happens to have set up shop in a skull building in the local swamp, we're out of luck. Oh, look at that, a skull building in the local swamp. And oh, look at that, the voodoo lady is here. Funny how things work out. I feel like there's a lot more to her than meets the eye in this one too. Other characters, including Largo, mention talking to her. There's even a point where you find out that she lied about being the one to kill LeChuck.
The fortune teller said she did in LeChuck.
She did she?
It makes you wonder what her game plan is as a character, but this is an idea that isn't capitalized upon until much later in the series. As always though, she's a very fun character to interact with.
How's business?
Very good. Many hexes this week. Saved many people from the evil eye. Made many pieces of 8. Although Largo took most of them.
We're here to find out about voodoo dolls though, and she instructs Guybrush in the creation of one.
Something of the thread. Something of the head. Something of the body. And something of the dead.
Hey, that almost rhymes.
So basically, clothes, hair, bodily fluids, and dead relatives. This used to be my great uncle Gregor. Very small man. Well, starting at the back end, there is a cemetery on the island. Perhaps someone related to Largo died there, and as it happens, we're in luck. And the bones of Grandpa LeGrand are ripe for the taking. We just need a shovel to do some digging now. But where can we find one? You might recall the first place you met Largo, there was a sign.
Welcome to Woodtick. No treasure hunting zone.
I guess there aren't any shovels around then, unless... If you look at the sign carefully, that sure is a rather three-dimensional shovel, is it not? Actually, it's not just a facsimile. That is a shovel, which we can just take because it's not very well attached. It's really interesting design-wise as well. The shovel is placed in a way that means you don't necessarily think to take it straight away, only when you realize you need a shovel. In 2004, as part of his Grumpy Gamer blog, Ron Gilbert republished a piece of writing from 1989, before any of the Monkey Island games ever came out, titled Why Adventure Games Suck and What We Can Do About It. It is worth noting that Ron himself doesn't agree with everything written in here now. I mean, God knows I don't agree with some of my old videos, so I do understand. But I do think it's still worth reading as it details a number of common issues that crop up in the genre, and offers a few guidelines on how to make them less painful, because many earlier adventure games certainly could be. I've long thought that Monkey Island 2 is a good way to highlight these guidelines. I mean, it follows them pretty well. One rule indicates that puzzles should generally be found before the solution. Like you find a problem and then later see or remember an item that may be key to solving it. The shovel is a good example of this. By making it a sign instead of just a shovel out in the open, you're less likely to try picking it up until the idea of digging is planted in your brain. Scam Island in general fits these guidelines really well. End objective needs to be clear? Check. You're told right from the beginning that you want to search for the lost treasure of Big Whoop. Sub-goals need to be obvious? Check. In order to leave the island, you need to get rid of Largo. And the sub-goal beneath that one is the production of a voodoo doll with all 4 components. It's all very clear, especially in comparison to the often aimless wanderings of classic Sierra titles. In Monkey Island 2, you end up with a chain of things that need solving, and it's clear what you have to do to reach that next step on the ladder. So where were we? Oh, that's right. Grave robbing. Funny. Anyway, having nabbed a piece of Largo's Le Grandpa, I think we should take a closer look at Woodtick itself, as the other 3 things we need are found across this town. First of all, the Woodsmith. There isn't a lot you can do with this character initially, but there is this exchange with him I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention.
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Oh, this bit is iconic. I actually have this pretty much memorized, and I can get through the whole sequence pretty fast. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck could chuck no amount of wood, a woodchuck can't chuck wood. But if a woodchuck could chuck and woodchuck some amount of wood, what amount of wood would a woodchuck chuck? Even if a woodchuck could chuck wood, and even a woodchuck would chuck wood, should a woodchuck chuck wood? A woodchuck should chuck as long as a woodchuck would chuck wood, as long as a woodchuck could chuck wood. Oh, shut up. Thank you. The inn seems like a good place to rest your boots, or it would be if Largo hadn't taken up every room. We could snoop around, but the innkeeper won't let us. He also has a pet alligator. That's probably worth keeping in mind. The cartographer, Wally B. Feed, is also not a fan of Largo, as the sailing embargo means the mapping business isn't as lucrative, because, well, people aren't really going anywhere. Also, this joke with Wally is great.
I'm a cartographer.
You do open heart surgery? In here?
No.
Wally is a total sweetheart, and his voice is adorable.
You know, I could just sit and talk about maps all day.
Hey, me too.
Oh, we love Wally. He could do no wrong.
Is longitude the sideways one, or is that latitude? I can never remember which is which.
It's so cute when you lay people try to understand geography. I could try to explain it, but it would probably just go over your head.
Oh, so that's how it is then. After I called you adorable and everything. That's it. You've lost vision privileges.
Hey, where's my monocle? I can't see a thing without my monocle. I hope I didn't lose it. I'll never be able to afford a new one.
I actually feel super guilty about this. We're gonna learn pretty soon that the Guybrush of this game is more willing to be a terrible person than he was last time. Like, Guybrush in Monkey 1 could be a bit of a jerk, but Monkey 2 Guybrush is a whole new level. The game actively encourages you to be a mean, conniving, cheating little bastard of a man. He's such a stinker, and I love him. Anyway, you can also meet Mad Marty here, who runs the laundromat. He's certainly interesting.
You have your claim ticket, Sonny.
I must have left it in my other pants.
Why'd you trade it for chocolate-covered ants?
Also, you may recognize these guys up here, the men of low moral fiber.
I'm Guybrush. You tried to sell me the minutes of a PTA meeting in the last game, claiming it was a map.
Map? I don't know what you're talking about.
No, really.
Why did you wake us up, Gorbush?
These 3 pirates were present on Melee Island as well, where they had their own rat.
Do you like rats?
Yes, especially in a light wine sauce.
Get away!
There's a rat here too, actually, and we may be able to use him at some point. So that's pretty much what Scab Island has to offer. Not a huge amount overall, but it's an interesting location. I'd probably say it's one of the most memorable areas of the series. It's sleepy and a bit sad, so it creates this uniquely melancholy vibe. Even the map theme reflects this. I mean, compare that to Melee's much more upbeat map theme. It's like night and day. Melee was so lived in, people were hustling and bustling about, there were many pirates who weren't even relevant to the story. They were just extras. There's a lot less of that here. It's quiet and a bit depressing. No one's really happy here. But to get back to the task at hand, we still need an extra 3 ingredients for our Largo voodoo doll. For a bodily fluid, well, we saw Largo spit at a wall earlier. Yes, this is pretty gross, but you can scrape it up with a bit of parchment taken from the cartographer, who still can't see. I'm so sorry, Wally.
How am I supposed to work?
But that's 2 of 4 now, and we just need some clothes and some hair to finish this off, which means getting closer to Largo. It would make sense to gain access to Largo's room first, and that means getting rid of the innkeeper. Perhaps if we set his pet alligator loose, he'd have to chase after it. So it is, of course, time for Guybrush to be a jerk once more and set a potentially dangerous creature loose in the name of trespassing. I wish I could say it was for a good cause, but we do also want to steal stuff. Using a knife from the Bloody Lips kitchen, we can cut the creature loose. It escapes, and the poor innkeeper soon follows after.
Hey! How'd old Pegbiter get loose? I'd better go catch him before he catches somebody else.
Wonderful. So now we have access to Largo's lair. The dresses actually don't offer anything in the way of clothes, oddly, but there is a toupee, which crosses off the head part of the voodoo recipe. Not what we were going for, but hey, for clothes, perhaps a different approach is necessary. Think about the fact that there's a laundromat in the town. Perhaps we'd be able to get a hold of Largo's outfit if it became dirty. So grab the bucket near the Men of Low Moral Fibre.
Hey, leave that alone.
Sorry, is this your bucket?
Well, no.
So you won't mind if I take it?
I guess not.
Then fill it with some swamp mud and get ready, because we're gonna pull an epic prank on Largo. Just sneak back into his room when he's gone, close the door, and put the bucket of mud right there. Wait, shh, he's coming. Quick, hide.
Hey, what the hell? What's going on? Whoever did this is gonna pay. I can't get this thing off my head.
Oh, we pranked him good. That was epic. Oh, I can't do this. Naturally, this causes Largo to angrily take his clothes to the laundromat to be cleaned.
You're making me mad, Marty.
That's my name, don't wear it out.
Now, we can't just steal them, surprisingly, and you can only get clothes from Mad Marty if you have a claims ticket.
You have your claim ticket, Sonny.
It was stolen.
Taking it bowling was a dumb thing to do.
Or if he can hear you properly. At least he can see a ticket. Surely Largo has his though. Now this is a bit tricky to find, it's actually hidden behind his door for some reason. I'm not entirely convinced that was the best place for it game design wise. If it had been up to me, I would have set an earlier precedent that he places important notes or something behind his door. Still, it's not the worst thing, and I suppose the bucket puzzle does show that you can look there in the first place. The claim ticket allows you to pick up Largo's laundry, which turns out to be a pearly white bra. The whole joke of, haha, the bad guy wears lady clothes is a bit dated. It's clearly meant to be an emasculation of the villain, but this kind of thing just hasn't aged well in my opinion. I feel like there are better reasons to poke fun at Largo than him being in touch with his feminine side. Like, who cares? So what if Largo does wear bras? He's bad because he's a bullying tyrant with a Napoleon complex, not because of his private life or his choice of clothes. It's at least a minor infraction against the game, but one worth pointing out. Let's move on. With all 4 ingredients ready and prepared, the voodoo lady can cook us up a voodoo doll. How exciting!
2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we assassinate? Largo, Largo, yeah.
The only issue is that apparently some of the ingredients weren't top quality, so we'll have to get close to Largo for this to work.
What? You mean the spit I scraped off the wall isn't a prime ingredient? I'm shocked.
Still, it's not hard to get close to him. We've snuck around Largo's room a few times already. What's an extra time between enemies?
Why are you following me around?
Take that, you stumpy little dim-witted toad!
What? Who do you think you are?
While we can't get our money back from him, we can help the scab community by forcing him to leave the island.
Just you try and make...
That'll teach you to mess with the slayer of the ghost pirate LeChuck!
What's that?
Uh-oh.
You killed LeChuck?
As a matter of fact, I did.
Guybrush, don't do anything stupid. Like, for instance, handing over a living piece of LeChuck's ghostly beard to Largo, who actually used to work for the guy, and is looking to resurrect him.
But you wouldn't do that, would you, Guybrush? Does she have one of these?
Is that...
Yes, LeChuck's beard. Still alive and wriggling.
Let me see that. Boy, it is alive! We've been looking for a living piece of LeChuck for years! Now we can bring it back to life!
Oh no. Here we go again.
The voodoo lady explains that yes, while Guybrush did destroy his spirit form, LeChuck's physical and decomposing body still exists, and the living ghost matter in the beard can reanimate the corpse somehow. Oh joy. And of course, he's gonna be out for revenge.
He's gonna try to kill me.
Undoubtedly.
The path forward then, according to her, is to continue the search for the legendary Big Whoop, which isn't just a treasure, but a path to another world.
That is some odd phrasing. Oh, I wonder what it could mean.
She hands Guybrush a book from Fat Island Library about Big Whoop, which will begin to set him on the necessary path. So begins our next objective in the goal of finding Big Whoop, finding the 4 map pieces. Through your travels on Scab, you do actually hear a number of things about Big Whoop. Differing accounts from different people seem to indicate that 4 people buried it, but the information as to where? That's where things get dicey. It seems to be this gigantic game of telephone where people have heard a story, but it's changed so much throughout the years that it's hard to say what the original name of the island was. Wally heard it was called Dinky Island, and the book calls it that too, but the men of low moral fibre heard it was called Dinky Island. Though thanks to this book, we do now know the names of the 4 adventurers who found Big Whoop. There's Rapp, Scallion the cook, young Lindy the cabin boy, Mr. Rogers the first mate, and Captain Marley.
And if you're curious about the surname Marley, yes, that is Elaine's father.
The important thing to note right now though is that we'll need to set sail for another 2 islands in order to get this treasure hunt started. However, we still need a way to get off the island, so we need to charter a ship. One available is the Jolly Rasta, captained by a man named Dread.
Do you get it? Rasta, Dread. Yeah, it's not terribly clever, is it?
In the developer commentary for the special edition, Ron Gilbert and Tim Schafer expressed that they wished they'd come up with a better name for this character in his ship. I tend to agree. It kind of just boils down the character to a couple of obvious stereotypes. Dread needs 2 things before we go: money and a lucky sailing necklace that he calls the eye that has seen the world.
I can't sail without it? No way, man.
It was the eye of a navigator friend that he kept as a good luck charm, after he and said navigator were taken prisoner by cannibals on a legendary island.
Odd. That sounds familiar.
Well, it's a navigating tool.
It's a head. It was once attached to a navigator.
We've kept it alive magically, so we could take advantage of its innate sense of direction.
Gee, I think I've met your friend.
Unlikely.
It might not quite be the head from the first game. I mean, last I saw he had both eyes in his head. But it is possible it came from the necklace of eyeballs he wears instead. Either way, this is a fun throwback. And on top of that, it actually links back with the puzzle design of the cannibals too. Remember how we gave them a pamphlet that said how to get ahead in navigating, which was a pun? Well, think along the same lines. An eye that has seen the world. What about the monocle of a cartographer? It's an eye, and he makes maps. Ergo, Wally has seen the world through that thing. It still feels super mean that we've taken it from him, but if it's part of what we need to leave, then so be it.
And it is a pretty fun puzzle, I think.
As for getting some money to charter the ship, this one is a bit more involved. And so, in the immortal words of JC Denton,
maybe you should try getting a job.
Okay, where?
Well, the bloody lip pays a week of wages up front, which will be great, but they just hired a new chef. Once again, it's time to be a horrible person. We need to get him fired, so we can take that job instead.
So what if the owner found something unpleasant in the kitchen? Perhaps the rat from the laundromat?
Using some food from the pet alligator's bowl, a stick, and some string from the voodoo lady's place, we can lure the local laundromat rat into a box. Then we can actually take the rat, just the whole creature, in Guybrush's pocket, as an inventory item. You might think that's a bit ridiculous now, but this isn't even the last living creature Guybrush stuffs in his coat in this game alone. Anyway, quite simply, we can put the rat in the pot where a meal is being prepared. Don't worry though, if you're concerned about animal cruelty, this isn't a hot soup, it's a vichyssoise, which is traditionally served cold. I find that to be a pretty cute detail that prevents some potentially horrific rodent cruelty from coming to pass.
We all remember Maniac Mansion, Ron.
When the owner finds the rat swimming in the soup, the poor chef is fired.
Oh my god! What kind of demented recipe book are you using? You're fired!
Guybrush immediately gets the job, and we can just get our money, bail, and set sail. God, Guybrush is such a piece of work in this game. In order to get off the island, you need to ruin the livelihoods of two separate innocent people. It's so mean. Still, this is only the end of part 1. It's time for part 2. Plot time. Deep in LeChuck's fortress, because he has one of those apparently, the big bad is now back and more horrible than ever. Zombie LeChuck is my favourite and probably the most unsettling iteration of the character, honestly. The way he just shambles about is so unnatural and odd. It creeps me out and I love it. He's got this lopsided asymmetrical limp, which apparently made animating him a bit more tricky.
It's really worth it though, because it just accentuates how his body has become as rotten as his soul.
Anyhow, LeChuck mentions that he wants to make a doll of his own. I'm sure that'll work out really well for us. As a nitpick though, I'm not sure I like how LeChuck gets Guybrush's name wrong here, with Largo of all people correcting him.
Only because they tell me you found Guybrush Threepwood.
It's Threepwood.
Is it me, or should it have been the other way around? Like, LeChuck could have a newfound sense of respect for Guybrush, considering, you know, he did kill him.
I don't know, it's a minor detail, but if someone murdered you, I feel like you'd make an effort to learn the name. That's a weird sentence.
This is where Monkey Island 2 excels in comparison to its predecessor. After completing everything on Melee Island and the secret of Monkey Island, you're pretty much just directly led down a linear path to the next area. Monkey Island 2 instead decides to open the game up a bit more. You can get to 3 separate islands in this chapter. You can still visit Scab Island, but you also have Fat Island and Booty Island available now too. The first time you visit each island, there's an Indiana Jones style red line which highlights Dred's, navigational prowess.
Well, he did lose his navigator. I suppose it makes sense that he'd go around in circles sometimes.
We'll begin with Fat Island. This is where the book we got came from after all. Well, what's this place like then? Apparently, Fat Island is a fascist dictatorship under the iron fist of Governor Fat. Do you get it? When you set foot on Fat, you're immediately apprehended and arrested when a guard spots your wanted poster.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
Aren't you Guybrush Threepwood?
Well, am I under arrest?
If you want to put it that way, sir, yes.
Oh.
He takes you to see the governor, who is a very large gentleman constantly gorging himself on food that comes through these pipes. You may have noticed by now that Monkey Island 2 in general leans a bit more on the gross out humour, like Largo's spit close-up for example. This sort of humour isn't necessarily my favourite thing, but I suppose it creates a much more unpleasant vibe.
It's not the clean pirate adventure we knew before. Quite literally.
I do kinda take issue with the way they've presented Governor Fat though. It's not so much that he's a larger guy, any character can be fat, hero or villain, but if their weight is clearly intended to gross out the audience, then it just feels mean to me. Much like the Largo bra thing, there are better reasons to hate this guy. He's a vile fascist who wants to sell you out to an undead pirate. That's enough. That's all we need. You don't need to punch down on others to hammer home that we should hate these villains.
By all means, let your characters be jerks. Just don't be a jerk yourself.
Anyhow, it's from Fat that Guybrush learns that LeChuck is back, which means our old pirate friend works fast. Or perhaps Captain Dread just sails slow. Either way, time is against us. With the bounty placed on Guybrush's head, Fat sends him to be locked up in the island jail. And this is a neat little puzzle. Perhaps one of my favourites as well. You have to figure out a way to escape the jail, and it needs to be done in a way that ensures any player will have all they need right there. This is another part of Ron Gilbert's design philosophy. You should never be in a situation where something you forgot to pick up screws you over. In fact, all your items are confiscated anyway, so all of it is contained here by design. This means that everything you need to escape this cell is right here waiting for you. A dog holding the keys, a skeleton in the neighbouring cell, and a lumpy mattress in your own. Beneath this mattress is a stick. Great. We can throw this for the dog, but all he does is bring it back. We can't quite get the keys off him this way, so let's think of something else. Perhaps with a similar principle. We can instead use the stick to flick a bone from the skeleton to us.
After all, a bone is much more appealing than a stick.
They don't call me the Bone Master for nothing.
Well, it probably wasn't Elaine calling him that, you'll see why. With this bone, we can appease the dog and get the key. Now, does this scene seem familiar to you? You might have seen something oddly similar in Pirates of the Caribbean. That's no coincidence. As it so happens, both this scene in Monkey Island 2 and the one from the first Pirates of the Caribbean come from the exact same place. Your first thought might be that Pirates is a ripoff of Monkey Island, and that is a distinct possibility. I mean, it's long been thought that Pirates of the Caribbean 1 may have originally been a Monkey Island movie.
I mean, just compare some of the plot beats.
A young guy falls in love with the governor/governor's daughter. She then gets kidnapped by a ghost pirate. And the starry-eyed young guy joins up with some other pirates to go after her. But she turns out to be a bit more competent than initially thought. It's funny that. Oddly similar. But actually, the origins of the dog scene come from the Pirates of the Caribbean Disneyland ride, which predates both the game series and the movies. This ride included a part where wax pirates would do the same thing with a dog. You can still find an image of this on the site. Interestingly, the dog in Monkey Island 2 is named Walt, possibly after Walt Disney. Although the developer commentary hints that it was also possibly after a dog owned by the game artist C. Purcell. I don't have a definitive answer on this one, unfortunately. After escaping the cell, you could not only get your effects back, but also the inventory of anyone else being held here. Might be useful to know if someone else gets arrested here later. For now, the only other envelope is from a gorilla, which gets us a banana and an organ. When you leave the jail, you can actually inspect your wanted poster, which is actually mechanically quite fun. It details every single crime you've committed against several people, and I'm not sure how they know some of these. I mean, they literally just added a thing about me breaking out of jail right this very moment.
And yes, it does update as the game goes on. It's worth checking later to see what you've been up to, you naughty boy.
Speaking of naughty boys, there are some shady deals going on in some of these back streets on Fat Island. One of these is a gambling game, and this gentleman in the green hat is just constantly winning. Or is he? He keeps coming back, betting on the right number and getting money from it. It might be handy for Rose to learn his strategy here, especially as there are other important prizes on offer, including an invite to Governor Marley's Mardi Gras party.
Yes, Elaine is in this game, and she's in more than just the intro, but we'll talk more about her and her relationship with Guybrush later.
Following the green-hatted gambler into a neighbouring alley shows that he's getting his answers from a large hand in a door. A very large hand. Oh, that's a big bloke in there. Anyway, the large-handed man is giving Mr. Green Hat a number puzzle first.
If this is 5, what's this?
4.
Right. The winning number will be 25 black.
Thanks.
This little game looks more complicated than it actually is, and it's apparently something that Tim Schafer used to do as a kid. It's basically just like a form of code, almost like a number form of Pig Latin. The numbers being said aren't actually relevant. Funnily enough, they're a red herring. It's the numbers we can see which are important.
So if this is 3, what's this? The answer, of course, is the previous number of fingers I was holding up, which is 5.
It's kind of deceptive. You expect from the appearance of the game that you'd be solving some kind of tricky maths problem, but Monkey Island has never been about that kind of puzzle. It's simple observation, as we see the gambler get the correct answers, allowing us to work backwards through his process. I really like this puzzle, it's cute, and as long as you pay close enough attention, it's just straightforward. And we can use this knowledge to win the gambling game ourselves and get an invitation to Elaine's party. You can also get any of the other rewards too, but those aren't useful. But we'll put that invitation in the back pocket for now. That's on a whole other island after all. Anyhow, the island we're currently on is also home to the aforementioned library. This place has a whole bunch of books you can take out. Some are relevant to advanced plot puzzles, others are just fun jokes and references.
Kleptomania. It says here that kleptomania is a nigh irresistible compulsion to take anything not nailed down.
You can just spend a whole bunch of time looking through these, it's great.
There are also cameos from the previous game as well, with books written by Herman Toothrot, Lemonhead and the Fettuccine Brothers being a part of the collection. Also available are Guybrush's own memoirs, which are, by his own admission, pretty terrible.
Why I Blew Up LeChuck. Ugh, the catalog was right. This is pretty bad.
It's clear that the type of person Guybrush became when fame and fortune hit was not a good one. Considering he wrote 4 whole books about his defeat of LeChuck, each one worse than the last. And clearly, this meant his relationship with Elaine couldn't last either. The person he became wasn't the young starry-eyed lad she admired back on Marley Island. As a side note, I made an offhand comment about Guybrush perhaps being underage in Monkey 1, which would have meant that his relationship with Elaine was perhaps inappropriate. But this game makes it clear that he's actually around 19. This is made explicit in one of the dialogue options when getting yourself a library card.
Age.
21.
Given that the manual says that months have passed between the two games, that means that Guybrush was at least 18 in the first game. So I take back my snide comment, I suppose. It's not immensely clear how old Elaine is though, but I don't imagine the gap between them is too big. This isn't really relevant at all, I just wanted to bring it up. Also, Elaine herself wrote some memoirs regarding her romance with Guybrush, and
Next to nothing. If you can't say something nice, you're not supposed to say anything at all.
Yeah, I don't think it went well.
I'm sure that meeting her at a party we weren't even invited to will go swimmingly. But speaking of swimmingly, fishing. Okay, yeah, that's a bad segue, I admit. The pier of Fat Island has this fisherman and an oddly large screen. There's a larger Guybrush sprite specifically designed for this screen only, and
I don't like him.
It looks weird and wrong. Get it away. Large brush makes me uncomfortable. Anyhow, this fisherman has a bet with Guybrush. You need to prove that you've caught a fish to him, else he'll make you eat a raw fish. It's a weird bet.
Ooh, you mean on rice with a little wasabi and soy sauce?
No.
Still, this is another thing we can keep in the back of our mind, as if we win this bet, we'll get the fishing pole. But once again, let's put that on the back burner until we need one. The last important part of Fat Island is this waterfall. We're going to need to get across it, but to do that, well, it's a bit tricky. It involves this pump here. This right here is one of the most infamous puzzles in this game. Quite simply, this pump requires a wrench so you can turn off the water and get through.
And this is one of those situations where wordplay puzzles might not be the best idea.
The thing is, there aren't any actual wrenches in the game. The type of wrench needed is a monkey wrench as well. A monkey wrench. As in, you literally end up using an actual monkey as a wrench. I'll get to the procurement of this monkey in a moment, but can I just bring up how not good this is? See, the issue here is that the name monkey wrench is mostly an Americanism. As far as I know, it's not a phrase typically used elsewhere. So for people who have English as their second language, there's no way they could get this joke. I mean, for my sins, I'm British, and I struggled with it my first time playing. It'd be interesting to hear how Americans responded to it as well though. Please, let me know.
This is a definite limitation of wordplay design and probably the worst example of it. But still, let's talk about getting the monkey in question.
We can't get to Monkey Island itself, but the bloody lit back on Scab now has one playing the piano to the beat of a metronome. One detail I love about this is that the music being played isn't always in tempo. There are slight speed ups and slowdowns, because he's clearly still learning to play the piano. And the metronome is there to keep him in check. It's that little attention to detail that makes this game feel so unique and special to me. For all the minor flaws and quibbles I have about it, I just think it's wonderful overall. We'll need to distract the little fella before we can nab him. And you may remember from Monkey Island 1 that the best way to get a monkey to come with you is bananas, obviously. Though we're not just going to give him our banana outright. After all, he's still preoccupied by his piano playing. It instead needs to be used to disrupt his focus, somewhere in plain sight. So place the banana on the metronome and approach slowly, because this monkey's name is Jojo.
Go ahead and take my entertainment. Thanks for nothing, buddy.
I feel bad for this guy. First he gets bullied by Largo, then we get his competent chef fired, then we take the chef job for ourselves and immediately bail, and then we take his entertainment away.
I mean, all things considered, when you think about it, Guybrush really isn't all that much better for Scab than Largo ever was. I have to almost wonder if Largo is how everyone else sees Guybrush in this game. Anyhow, across the waterfall is the House of Rum Rogers, a stout, retired pirate.
I knew it. Look, kid, I'm sick of you would-be treasure hunters coming over here. I just inherited this house 2 months ago, and every single day all I've heard is rap tap tap, do you have a treasure here? Why can't you people just go away and leave a retired pirate in peace?
This surname may set alarm bells ringing in your head. Rogers was the surname of the first mate of Captain Marley on the Big Whoop voyage. This isn't the same Rogers mind, rather a relative of some kind. It's a bit unclear. We can try to engage in a drinking contest with him to search his cabin, but this is some powerful stuff. Guybrush is naturally not able to handle it.
Novice.
Oh, my head.
So in order to progress here, we first need to explore Booty Island. Monkey Island 2 is designed in this way where threads of different puzzles are interwoven between the islands. You essentially have to visit all of them to make significant progress. You can't just do each island systematically. This means there's a lot of going back and forth, which different players might have mixed feelings about. It doesn't bother me so much personally though, because moving between the islands isn't too tedious of a process. Anyway, Booty Island. It's not quite as seedy as it sounds. This is a democratic island under the governance of one Elaine Marley as part of the Tri-Island area.
It's interesting how the political systems of the three main islands in this game are really distinct from each other, and it affects how you interact with each one.
Governor Fat runs a dictatorship on his island, which gets you immediately arrested. Booty Island has a democratically elected leader, and Scab Island is an anarchist cooperative of pirates, cutthroats and criminals, in the words of Wally. Monkey Island 2 doesn't explicitly or implicitly endorse any of these. Fat Island is obviously a bad place. Scab is mostly fine, but it was taken advantage of by Largo. Perhaps Booty Island is the most functional here, but even then, they're blind to the evils of LeChuck returning in favour of throwing an extravagant party. Still, let's explore Booty Island. We can't get to the party just yet because, while yes, we've got the invitation, we also need a costume, and the costume shop is fresh out right now. Can't even get this Max costume here. I still love that Sam and Max was snuck so often into LucasArts games. That's just great. But what else is in this general vicinity? We've got the pirate antique shop called the Booty Boutique, full of all kinds of nautical memorabilia and such. Also in the area is a kindly old lookout, this one being hard of hearing as opposed to visually impaired like the one on Melee was.
I'm over this way.
Ah!
Hello there.
Sorry, son. Didn't have my horn out. Could you say that again?
I have to wonder if Ron Gilbert had designed the third Monkey Island game. Would the third lookout have been silent to complete the 3 monkeys? That's just a random thought I had. Anyway, we also have Kate Capsize, selling tours on her boat.
3-hour tours. See the world.
Kate is an interesting character. Like most of the women of this world, she's more than willing to bite back at any men being weird and gross. Much like Carla did in Monkey Island 1.
Hey, it's your loss, baby.
Yeah, right. Now scram.
And if you really want, you can make Guybrush be the gross one here. The pickup verb can be used on her for some pickup lines. It's kind of terrible, but a somewhat funny use of the verb table.
You know, I could really fall for a girl like you.
Hopefully off a cliff.
Yeah, you deserve that, Guybrush.
Kate is another person who was on a trip to try and find Big Whoop. But that voyage believed the island to be called Blinky Island. Inky Island, Drinky Island, Blinky Island. It has to be a name along these lines, right? I wonder if it's called Clyde Island. Still, let's explore Booty further. Another attraction here is a spitting competition. Ew. We'll get to that later though. And there's also... oh no, it can't be.
He's back, everybody.
Howdy! Welcome to Stan's previously owned coffins. We handle the dead for a lot less bread. What are you looking for, son? Need a bin for your next of kin? Want a family plot without spending a lot? You're in luck!
Oh yeah, Stan's here once again everybody, though this time he's peddling an entirely different kind of vessel. Doesn't mean he's changed his strategies of course. Stan still sells his coffins like a used car salesman. Wait, these coffins are used as well? Oh god.
Do I even want to know what that means?
Stan's sprite is pretty much the same as it was in Monkey Island 1, except his core has been recolored to be black and grey instead. Makes it less flashy and hypnotic, but I suppose it's more appropriate for his new job. Wait until you see him in the next 3 games though. If you explored Scab Island judiciously, you might have also seen Stan's mark on one of the crypts here.
Stan's Cozy Crypts, a place to spend eternity, not a fortune.
He's not just in the coffin business, he has his fingers in a whole bunch of death-related pies. And that might just be the strangest sentence I've ever said.
Further along the island is a strange tree full of holes, and the Governor's Mansion, where we meet the ghost pirate LeChuck.
The ghost pirate LeChuck!
Get a grip! Don't you know a Mardi Gras costume when you see one?
Oh, that's a pretty great costume actually. I'm jealous. Until we can get something of our own though, we can't make it past this lady. So now we've covered pretty much all there is to explore. All 3 islands in this chapter of the game. As I mentioned, the 4 map pieces are our end goal here, as we need them to reach Inky, or Drinky, or Blinky Island, and find Big Whoop. Location wise, we already established the Rogers residence on Fat, so that's where one piece will be. You find out that Rapp Scallion lived out the rest of his life selling hot dogs on Scab Island, so there's probably one there as well. And of course, the Marley piece is probably with a certain relative of his. Let's turn our attention to young Lindy's map piece then, because that one is much closer than you think. As luck would have it, the Booty Boutique happens to have it on display. It's less lucky then that this costs 6 million pieces of 8. Money which we obviously don't have. You can earn a little bit of money by polishing the peg leg of one of the men of low moral fibre back on Scab, though this only gets you a little bit. Cheapskate. We'll have to figure out an alternative method of raising 6 million pieces of 8. God, that's a lot. Well, perhaps if there's no way for us to make that money specifically, then maybe he'd accept a trade. Something of equal value. You'd have to find something really special, untouched by any pirate. Perhaps even something buried at sea. After all, Kate Capsize offers tours on her boat, but that costs 6,000 pieces of 8. Though 6,000 is a much more achievable number than 6 million, so let's work on making that much first. Perhaps there's something valuable we could sell to the antique store owner, something like an award or a trophy.
It's not ideal, but how about that spitting contest?
Anyone can enter and we can choose a nickname. Hell yeah, I'm Juicius Maximus.
The Juice Man! Max Mucus! He's juicy to the max! Spit away!
But the first attempt doesn't go so well.
Not so much Juicius Maximus, as much as Dribblius Minimus.
Yeah, we may have to figure out a way to do better here. Remember Largo's spit from earlier? Now that had some aerodynamics to it. And he drank something green first. I wonder. The bartender at the Bloody Lip doesn't have any green drinks in stock now, but we can get blue and yellow drinks to mix together. A bit of basic colour theory, you see? By the way, you will need the library card to get these. A lot of steps in this whole process, it's very layered. With our green drink, we can now spit even further. Neat in a kind of gross way, but it's still not far enough. If any of you have played a Worms game before, you'll know that the wind can really aid your projectiles. The same is actually true here. If you watch this woman sash closely and spit when the wind is blowing, you can take things even further. But that's still not enough. Okay, fine. If that's how you want it, I'll cheat then. Is that what you want? You want me to cheat? I mean, apparently it is.
Monkey Island 2 has you going for the full pirate experience. You lie, you cheat, you plunder, and you be a generally nasty boy.
See those flags? Those mark previous contestants. If we got the guy in charge to look away for a bit, we could shift them around so our spit is the eventual winner. But getting him away, it's a bit of a complex puzzle. Basically, you need to blow a horn from the antique shop, which makes this guy fire a cannon, which makes this guy think his mail has arrived, which then gives you a window of opportunity in which to cheat. The audience doesn't seem to really care. I feel like they should, but oh well. It's a bit weird. Anyhow, this nets us our award. A wad of our spit on a bronze plaque.
Thanks.
Being the killer of LeChuck and therefore a celebrity, this means our phlegm is worth a pretty penny. And this, of all things, nets us that 6,000 pieces of 8 we needed. With the money raised, we can chart a caged ship, and when you do so, you can tell it to head to specific coordinates. Remember, we want to find something worth 6 million pieces of 8, so perhaps a bit of research is in order.
To the library we go.
If we look up shipwrecks in the index, there might be something here that we can use. Aha! perfect. This is actually one part of the game which is randomized every time. The coordinates of the shipwreck you want, the Mad Monkey. If you head to any old random coordinates, you won't find anything. But if you put in the coordinates of the shipwreck listed in the book, you can then descend down and hopefully find something of value.
A couple of interesting things to note here.
1. I love the way the camera pans down from the bottom of the boat to the sea floor. It's one long piece of artwork that really achieves this effect like a real camera pan. Really simple, but nicely done. And 2. The music used for this part is a song which appears quite a few times later in the series. One of my favourite melodies across all of the games, actually. As a matter of fact, I'd say this game set a couple of melodies in stone. Stan's theme in this one is actually the theme that Stan uses for every game following this one. Why did they replace Stan's theme and never go back to using the original one? I have no clue, but the new one is also really good. The soundtrack in general, in combination with the IMU system, is among the series' best.
And let me tell you, there is a lot of stiff competition here, but Monkey Island 2 is a strong contender for the top spot.
Michael Land knocks it out of the park for a second time, though this time he was also joined by Peter McConnell, better known for the Grim Fandango soundtrack, and Clint Bajakian, who we already know from Outlaws. Apparently, he most recently did some whistling for Death Stranding too. Huh. The more you know. But LeChuck's Revenge was the first credited game for these two. They'd both go on to be mainstays for the LucasArts sound department for years to come, and I'm sure we'll be mentioning them again in the future. I mentioned how in The Secret of Monkey Island there are a lot of quiet moments with no music, but that's not the case in LeChuck's Revenge. There are themes for pretty much every little area. The only quiet one that comes to mind is the Fat City Library, and like, that's a library. It's a joke unto itself. But even in Fat alone, you have unique themes for the alleyways, the jail, Fat's mansion, and so on. It's great.
Anyway, where were we? Oh, that's right. Drowning. Or are we?
Down here, you might think there was yet another potential drowning death scene, like in the first game. But no, you'd be wrong. They don't actually let you drown Guybrush in this one. Though, waiting 10 minutes does get a response out of Guybrush. He just swims back up. He was tied down before, so he didn't have the luxury, I suppose. Now he can. No forcibly drowning your protagonist for catharsis here.
She's drowning. Yeah. Is that the point of the game? Depends what mood you're in, really.
What we can do down here, though, is pilfer the monkey head from the famous shipwreck's figurehead.
And that's the third biggest monkey head I've ever seen.
This makes for an excellent trading item at the Booty Island souvenir shop. One worth the full 6 million. And boom, that's one of 4 map pieces down. Whew, that was a lot of effort. So let's go for Rapp Scallion's piece next. Rapp died on Scab Island, which as I mentioned before, Stan has a stake in. The crypt he sold here is locked, but there is a key at Stan's place. Of course he won't let us just take it, so we need to distract him or keep him away from us somehow.
And what you do here is probably the cruelest thing Guybrush does in this game, or even the entire series. Hell, it might just be the cruelest thing you do in any adventure game I've ever played.
In order to pull this off, we're going to need some tools. The woodsmith of Scab has a hammer and nails, which is great. We could use those. But as usual, he doesn't want us to have them. Perhaps if there was something that required his attention, some kind of wood-based emergency, he'd drop what he was doing and rush to help. So what can we do? You might remember we earned some money from this guy by polishing his peg leg. It wasn't a lot of money, but it's enough to buy a saw from the antique shop. And then you get Guybrush to saw his peg leg off. But that's just one step in this ladder of cruelty. This gets the woodsmith to go and help him, meaning we can grab his hammer and nails.
1 coffin, 1 hammer, a bunch of nails, and 1 Stan. Poor, poor Stan.
We already witnessed him getting punched into the stratosphere by LeChuck, but what we're about to do is something much, much worse. When Stan demonstrates the use of a coffin to Guybrush, what you need to do is close the lid and nail him in there. You have to trap a man in a coffin, and it doesn't sound like he's enjoying it.
Help! I can't get out of here! Okay, a joke's a joke, now get me out of here! Open this coffin right now!
It's a completely horrible thing to do, and I feel so bad about it. But that's kind of the point, I guess. Monkey Island 2 Guybrush is awful. He barely hesitates before doing any of these things. You basically ruin the lives of nearly every person you meet in this game. It's somewhat spectacular. You destroy their livelihoods, or prey on their disabilities like some kind of evil hawk, like taking away Wally's monocle or sawing off Frank's prosthetic leg. But trapping a man in a coffin? That's a whole new level of horrible. Guybrush Threepwood is a monster. He's like 2 steps away from making a saw trap at this point.
It's dark and twisted and horrible, but I can't seem to look away.
I'm so sorry, Stan. Please forgive me someday. I just need this key. As expected, we can use this key in the Scab Cemetery. But at what cost? At what cost? Making your way into the crypt, you need to figure out where exactly Rapp has been buried. However, Guybrush doesn't want to just open any old coffin. He needs to be sure he's looking in the right place. I refuse to believe this version of Guybrush would have enough respect for other human beings to really care if he defiles the wrong grave. But I suppose it's not a bad puzzle. The immediate thing to notice though from each of these coffins is that they each have a quotation on them, not a name. So if we knew something Rapp Scallion was famous for saying, that would help. This is one of the many puzzles, like looking for the shipwreck, where the library is useful, because it just so happens you can find a book about pirate quotations in here. Well, technically, Governor Fat was the one to take the book out, but you just need to Indiana Jones it from him while he sleeps. And that means we can read the book to find out what kind of man Rapp is. Or rather, was.
Happiness is a warm manatee. Rapp Scallion.
I don't know what this means, but it's either wholesome and cute or terrifying and grisly.
Cracking open the coffin with this quote means we find ashes. He did die in a tragic wiener fire accident after all, so I guess it makes sense. Sadly, that's all that's in there though. No map. A shame we can't bring him to life again, but what if we could? The resurrection of LeChuck proves you can bring someone back through voodoo magic. And if you're a curious player, you might have rifled through the voodoo lady's shelf of many jars earlier, simply because there are many strange and amusing concoctions in there.
Ode de Mojo. The mystical aroma of voodoo captured in a delightful potpourri.
But one of these is Ash to Life, which takes dead ashen remains and temporarily resurrects them. The voodoo lady does need a recipe book first, but that's easy. Just go to the library again.
We're library veterans at this point.
And once we sprinkle our life-giving concoction onto Rapp's ashes... God, I love this animation.
Phew! That was a close one. If I didn't have my flame-resistant apron on, I would have been killed.
Rapp Scallion has one last regret. He's concerned that he left the stove on. He did. Once we clear up that situation, he gives us his map piece. So that's that, and now we're on 2 out of 4. The pieces for Captain Marley and Rum Rogers tie heavily in with Elaine's party, so I guess we can't delay the inevitable any longer.
That's right. Guybrush must face up to his ex, who he quite frankly doesn't deserve.
But first we need a costume. This actually has a pretty simple solution. Each costume is booked out to a particular invitation, so showing ours means we can just get one. I suppose I could have done this all earlier, but it makes sense to do it now, I think. Anyhow, the costume we end up with is a fine pink dress.
What a beautiful dress.
You know what? I like that there isn't a lot of fuss over this. Guybrush doesn't complain or go, "What? I can't wear a dress, that's girly." It's not used for anything demeaning or to emasculate him or anything. It's just a pretty dress. Guybrush wears it, and the lady guarding the party even comments on how nice it is.
Oh, that is nice. And the boots are a nice touch. Okay, I guess you can go through. Have fun!
Compared to Largo's bra joke, this one doesn't even feel like it's trying to be mean. It's played incredibly casually.
Oh yeah, this is my client, wearing a pink dress.
What is the deal? Everybody wears clothes like that.
Whether intentional or not, it feels at least somewhat progressive in its discussion of gender. Monkey Island 2 was ahead of the curve on that, and it's one reason I love this part so much. Nobody bats an eye, it's just a dress. And Guybrush isn't any lesser for wearing it. I just think that's neat. With the dress, we can now get into the party, and the map is right there. Well, that was easy.
What's the matter, boy? Smell something? Nice doggy.
What's the matter there, Guybrush?
Yeah, we should know by now it's never going to be that easy.
But this does mean we finally get to see Elaine, who is...
Don't talk to me.
Less than happy to see Guybrush. But that's okay. There's a small dialogue puzzle where you can win her over again. You also have the option to say some really mean things, but I can't bring myself to do that. I can't let Guybrush be that much of a jerk, even in a game where we trap a man inside a coffin. But even when we do win her over again, this iteration of Guybrush can't help but make an ass of himself.
Oh, Guybrush. I know I shouldn't have anything to do with you. But there's something about your weakness and ineptitude that I find infectious.
Does that mean you're gonna let me have the map?
The map. Is that what this is all about? I should have known better. If the map's all you care about, you'd better go out and get it.
Even when you guide Monkey Island 2 Guybrush in the right direction, he still messes things up, and he still acts like a jerk. You just can't fix this guy. At least not yet. Elaine is too good for Guybrush. He's everything she despises in this game. He's a bum.
That's what he is. A bum.
Out of frustration, Elaine throws the map out of the window. Guybrush attempts to nail it down, but it drifts away.
It really is never that easy.
The map piece floats across the island and lands on a cliff face. We can't reach it ourselves, but perhaps a fishing rod might do the trick. Ah, finally. Remember that the fishermen on the Fat Island Pier made a bet with us. We can get that rod if we get a decently sized fish. Nobody said we had to catch it ourselves though. In fact, the kitchen at Elaine's place, or should I say, place, has plenty of fish to pilfer. Or should I say, pilchard.
Who wrote this crap? You did. But I'm you. Exactly. Oh God. Oh, he's gone. Well, this is existentially horrifying.
The chef isn't exactly happy to let us take it, but if you just embrace your inner raccoon and mess with his trash, he gets very upset with you and begins chasing you around.
Hey, what is all the racket? Don't mess. Who do you think you are?
Which gives us an ample window for fish fetching. As a side note, you might notice that I'm out of the dress here. Adventure games like this one aren't always played in their logical order. This is just the way I'm presenting things for these videos. So if you're wondering why it looks like Guybrush might be changing in and out of a dress, that's why. With the fish acquired, we can get ourselves that rod and fish the map piece up from the cliffside, finally.
Oh, come on.
Dang.
Okay, so the seagull takes the map piece to a treehouse. There's only one step here, but using an ore from Elaine's room, we can... Uh-oh.
Something weird is happening. I can feel it.
Dad? Mom? What are you two doing here?
We came looking for you.
Where have you been?
You came looking for me?
A strange dream sequence occurs, where we meet Guybrush's parents. The Secret of Monkey Island makes a deliberate effort not to give him much of a backstory, so this is very odd, and out of the blue. Or out of the red, I suppose. And then they turn into skeletons, and sing a song.
Leg bone's connected to the head bone. The head bone's connected to the hip bone. The hip bone's connected to the rib bone.
Oof, that voice acting though. I think the voices chosen for Guybrush's parents are fitting, but not when you make them sing. You gotta remember this game never had voice acting until the 2010 special edition, so this sequence wasn't made with that thought in mind. The result is a bit rough, honestly.
It is what it is, but if you can't beat him, join him.
The rib bone's connected to the arm bone. The arm bone's connected to the head bone. The head bone's connected to the leg bone.
Oh God. Oh no. I think I broke his arm off. He danced a little bit too aggressively. Oh no. My boy!
I gotta write this down.
Guybrush does write down the lyrics though, for some reason. Odd. Almost like it's gonna be a solution in a future puzzle or something. The song is cut short when LeChuck appears, wearing a blue coat much like Guybrush's, and he opts to get some revenge. I mean, it is in the title.
Wow. What a dream.
Well, that was weird. I'm probably not full of hidden meaning or anything.
Okay, weird dreams aside, we still need to get to that treehouse. So we need a replacement step for the one that we broke. We'll need to get our ore repaired. And we do know a woodsmith, so that's a pretty easy fix. Making our way up to the treehouse, it seems we have to find a needle in a haystack. Amidst this massive stack of papers is Marley's map piece. Though if you remember Guybrush the dog from earlier, and yes, that is his name, he was the one that sniffed it out when we tried to steal it the first time. Perhaps if we can find a way to bring Dogbrush with us, he would help us. Maybe if we got a bone or... oh, you can just pick him up.
Okay then.
What is it with this game and picking up animals? There's the rat, there's Jojo, and now poor Guybrush the dog. It just seems wrong somehow. This is one point where if you're still wearing the dress, Guybrush will automatically take it off. Tragically, dresses just aren't made to fit dogs inside. With that, Guybrush is back to his old coat and ditches the dress.
Careful there, buddy. Someone could make a voodoo doll out of that thing.
Either way, our canine pal is more than willing to help us out.
Good boy! Run along home now.
I really hope he sucked that landing. We're pretty high up.
That makes 3 map pieces, only 1 to go.
And with that, we are 3 map pieces down. Before you leave the treehouse, there's an extra area you can go with a telescope. There's no reason to believe you can go here, and it kind of blends into the background, which is a bit annoying, but you do need that telescope. Something I haven't mentioned so far is that between the collection of each map piece, there's a scene where Largo reports to LeChuck about our progress.
Largo!
Yeah. You called for me?
Is it true that Guybrush Threepwood has found the 3rd piece of the map to Big Whoop?
Yes, sir. I was about...
Why did you not come and tell me yourself?
Each time I actually get more and more worried for Largo. Poor guy is trying his best, and I mean he did resurrect his boss. Not many employees would go that far. LeChuck should, you know, ease back a bit. I also want to mention that these scenes were initially going to be close-ups with Largo and LeChuck, in which LeChuck looks terrifying. It really sells this decrepit, vengeful zombie pirate thing LeChuck has going on in this game. Largo, on the other hand, reminds you of Luigi for some reason. I'm not sure how I feel about that. This art was recently revealed in October of this year, along with some other really cool cut content from the first 2 games, to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the series. It's really cool to see these screens in action. And kinda sad that they never made it into the final games. Though I can understand why cutting these for disk space or for other pacing reasons might have been necessary.
So anyway, the last map piece.
We know this one is all the way back at Rum Roger's place. And we also know we have to beat him in a drinking game. The trouble is, this grog is simply too strong for you, traveller.
It's fit for a beast, let alone a man.
An obvious solution is the old switcheroo. Get something much more easy to drink and swap it out without Mr. Rogers seeing. Well, there is something called near grog which we can get from the Bloody Lip, but apparently Kate Capsize bought it all out. Now, if only there was a way to get into Kate's booty.
You know, they call me the Bone Master.
I'm surprised anyone calls you at all.
No, not like that.
No, I mean, what if we could get her inventory confiscated somehow? We had ours taken when we got jailed on Fat Island, and it just so happens we have a mugshot-style leaflet of her face. And a wanted poster with our face on it in fat. Well, here we go again, being a piece of human garbage and getting an innocent woman arrested.
Kate, eh? That's an unusual name. Perhaps you have some identification?
My ID's on my ship. Wait here while I go and get it.
Nice try, Guybrush. I don't know how you got out of the jail, but I'm taking you back in.
Just another person's life we've ruined. I'm so sorry, Kate. It's for the greater good. I need your weak alcohol.
And with that, we can pull a fast one on Rum Rogers. Wally passes out from his own strong grog. I guess he doesn't practice what he preaches, but that doesn't mean we can get the map right away. We can push a button to get into the cellar, but a ramp slides us right out again. In the light version of the game, that's all you have to do. There's no ramp. But here, in the full version, it's a bit more involved. And what it involves is this gorilla statue outside the house. The inscription reads,
"When I can see far, you are near."
And it certainly looks like there's room in his hand to hold something, right? This is where that telescope from Booty Island goes. And the sun shines through it right onto the house. If we then open up the shutters, the light beam shines through and lands on the wall. The wall where a mirror used to be. A mirror that would bounce the light where it needs to go. So I guess we'll now need to acquire a mirror. And luckily, the antique store has one. This is another great example of the typical puzzle flow. You find a problem and you remember a solution. You don't think about buying the mirror until this particular moment. Procuring the mirror is pretty simple. You do need to distract the parrot away from it first, using a bag of bird feed that features a picture of a parrot on it, but then you can simply just buy it. So now we have that mirror that reflects the light in Rum Roger's house. It's a bit of a complicated process, but it does at least make sense logically. And this light beam does something. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I guess the redirected light beam somehow changes the direction of the slide.
I don't know exactly how that works, but it is what you gotta do.
Either way, down here is Rum Rogers Sr., dead, in his bathtub, still holding the map piece. Wait, he bathed with his map piece? He died bathing with his map piece?
I suppose there are worse ways to go.
But hey, we now have all 4 map pieces. But we do need an expert to decipher it. Luckily, we do know an expert, even if we have bullied him previously.
I swear I put it right here.
That said, knowing Guybrush has found all the map pieces, LeChuck and his boys realise that a cartographer is the next step in the process. So this is a race against time now. Poor Wally. This whole time we've been gallivanting across the Caribbean ruining lives, he's been unable to see as well. Oh, I forgot about that. Here you go, buddy. This is a lens from a model lighthouse. I stole it from the library.
Let it never be said that I'm not a good Samaritan.
Wally is happy to help, but he does ask us to run an errand for him first. A love potion from the voodoo lady. Wally, I didn't realise you felt that way. All you had to do was get me a drink from the bloody lip.
I'll have Yellowbeard's baby, if you know what I mean.
Wait. I just felt a sudden disturbance in the force, as if a tiny, tiny voice just called out in fear, and then hastily scratched a message in a cable. I think Wally's in trouble, and I think LeChuck has something to do with it.
Uh-oh. I better go check.
This, of course, is a way for the game to get you away from him because, inevitably, well...
Where'd he go? Someone's hastily scratched a message here. It just says, LeChuck. Oh no. LeChuck's kidnapped the cartographer. The poor little guy.
Oh, Wally, I'm sorry. Again. Strangely enough, there is a pretty clear way to go after LeChuck. At this point in the game, a large crate sits outside the Voodoo Lady's swamp, with its contents primed to be shipped to LeChuck himself, or rather his Spartan Island getaway.
Oh, that sounds nice. I could do with a break.
Let's climb inside and stow away.
Looks like another box of live snakes.
Sounds like it, too.
Well, let's get it on the truck.
Wait, truck? That's weird. Why would there be a truck in a pirate game? You may have noticed that part 2 was pretty damn long, and yeah, it's definitely the heftiest chapter in the game. Both this game and the first have one very long chapter and a number of much shorter ones. Either way, we've made it to LeChuck's Fortress, a place which is super creepy, as you might expect it to be, really. Wally is also here, chained up and dangling from the ceiling.
Mr. Brush, is that you?
Bless him.
They abducted me in my office, brought me here in a duffel bag, interrogated me, then they...
What?
They took away my monocle for a while.
Oh, Wally, who would do such a thing?
He's so adorable and the game is so cruel to him. I feel so bad. Though he is very competent at cartography, as the map has finally been figured out, and we now know the true name of the island.
It's on an island called Dinky, not too far from here. After you bust me out of here, we could steal a boat and go there.
This game could technically have been called The Secret of Dinky Island. Monkey Island itself doesn't feature at all.
Not until the retcons, at least.
It's actually super easy to miss Wally here. I mean, it's not vital to talk to him at all. I've had playthroughs where I don't even visit him in jail. Poor Wally. Even here he gets the short end of the stick. And on top of all of that, you can be mean to him here too, while he's in jail and chained to the ceiling.
Could you please stop that annoying swinging?
Sorry.
And he actually stops. Why are you allowed to do this? It just hurts my heart.
God, Guybrush, you're such a jerk. You know what? You're going to apologise for taking his monocle in the first place. Enough is enough.
I have something to confess about your monocle. Dread stole it.
Wow, you can't even get Guybrush to apologise without throwing someone else under the bus. That's just despicable. To get the key to unlock Wally's cell though, there's some sort of labyrinth of bones. Corridors upon corridors of a demonic fortress, each with bone-clad panels on the walls. Wait, bones? Bones? We wrote something down about bones, didn't we? That bizarre dream. If you check the spit-encrusted paper that Guybrush wrote on, it tells you which bones connect together. For each verse, there's a corresponding panel to enter until you reach LeChuck's office. And the key is right there for the taking. What a fool. Doesn't he know we can just take it? Oh.
Guybrush Threepwood, you have finally been caught. I have searched every island, sailed every sea, and now you are mine. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, this is a predicament.
You be in a heap of trouble, Guybrush Threepwood. Now that you are mine, you will pay for what you did to me.
Hey, what's a little root beer between friends?
And this is more of a predicament.
Silence!
Now entering Predicament City.
You see that candle over there? When it burns through that rope, the bag will fall on the bellows. When it is compressed, that other shield, finally striking the green that ratchet on the chain wheel and sending you down into the pit of acid.
Gee,
You can ask LeChuck about a whole bunch of things here, actually. Either about the ridiculous Rube Goldberg sequence he has set up, or about other things.
Where do babies come from?
In your case, the orphanage.
What is the secret of Monkey Island?
I'm growing tired of your stupid...
But he quickly tires of this and leaves you to your doom. So in the last video I mentioned that there were no deaths elsewhere in Monkey Island, other than the drowning gag in the first game. Some people corrected me to say that there's one here if you wait long enough.
Oops.
I guess I never really counted it, since if it does happen, Elaine just calls out the story.
You honestly expect me to believe you were disintegrated in acid?
Remember, this entire story is being recounted firsthand by Guybrush. It doesn't make logical sense for him to die in his own story. But I suppose the acid death kinda counts. It just feels like more of a joke to me. I guess you'll have to make your own judgment on that one.
So, Wally.
Yeah?
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Bad feeling? LeChuck's got you hanging in chains over a pit of acid and all you've got is a bad feeling?
Gosh, I feel even worse when you yell at me.
Just leave me alone.
There's not a lot you can do while dangling here, but you can take a swig from your drink. And remember the spitting contest? We are, after all, Juicius Maximus, the spitting champion.
Okay, I mean, we did cheat, but we're ready to juice this dungeon up.
There's a specific sequence of what to spit on here, I think, but usually I just spit on everything, including Wally.
Hey, watch it with the spit.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
But if you get the right angles, freedom.
Arr! What be going on in here? Largo, relight the candle. Guybrush has escaped. Find them!
Guybrush and Wally escape to a very dark room. Luckily, the game forces you to pick up some matches just before this chapter.
Holy skunk sweat! Ouch!
Somewhat mirroring the cannon shot to Monkey Island in the first game, once again Guybrush is launched by explosives to a mysterious island. This time it's Dinky Island. We finally made it, by pure coincidence. Weird. Initially there were plans to have Guybrush sail with Wally over there on a raft, though that was cut. I think this also involved Wally losing his monocle again and falling in the sea, which was cut for being too cruel.
I guess they had to draw the line somewhere.
Wally's actual fate is left unclear in the final game, at least for now. So, Dinky Island. It's not Monkey Island, but it is similar. Eerily similar. In fact, you even meet a hermit like Herman Toothrot upon landing on the island. Wait, that is Herman Toothrot.
How did he get here?
I guess he's asking a similar question of himself too, though in a different context. Because he's into Zen philosophy now, which is... good?
Could you teach me some philosophy?
Okay, here's a Zen koan for you.
A what?
A philosophical puzzle. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, what color is the tree?
You can actually cycle through pretty much every colour you can name here, from...
forest green?
Nah.
To...
wisteria?
Not exactly.
Poor Dominic Armato had to voice every single one of these for the special edition, and the whole thing just goes on for several minutes. Until...
all colors?
Exactly! Now, what has this experience taught you?
That philosophy isn't worth my time.
Oh, I'm very impressed. It takes most people years to reach this point.
Also, fun fact, you don't have to interact with Herman at all in this game, so that was pointless.
Well, that was a perfectly good use of 5 minutes of my life.
Anyway, there's another being speaking here, one with much more worthwhile things to say. This right here is a VIP, a very important parrot. Parrots live for a long time, and this one has clearly been here since Marley's crew arrived. I'll get to this parrot's use in a second though. First, there are a few items on the beach. This is another minor instance of pixel hunting because I find these a bit easy to miss. There's a crowbar, a martini glass, a bottle, and a cracker in the barrel. Perhaps it's because I haven't replayed this one quite as much as the first game, but I do feel like some of the items aren't as clear on the screen. That might be down to the game's graphics though. I held off a bit talking about these, but have you noticed something throughout the video? Maybe that it doesn't quite look as clean as the Secret of Monkey Island's backgrounds? Normally the background would start as sketches and go through a cleanup phase to make them look nicer. I don't think Monkey Island 2 had time to get that treatment. Not that any of the backgrounds are bad, in fact many of them look great, like the Mad Monkey wreck especially, but they're just rougher around the edges. Mark Ferrari wasn't involved here either, but Steve Purcell did return, with newcomer Peter Chan as well. I will say that I like looking at the original sketches because god, they're actually gorgeous. It's just a shame we couldn't experience them in their full touched up glory.
But anyway, that's enough of my graphical diversion. Let's talk about Dinky Jungle and finding Big Whoop.
The thing is, while we've made it to where we need to be, we have no map. Not an inkling of where to go, not even a Wally. And this jungle is strange. I want to say the layout doesn't exactly make sense. I mean, I attempted to map it out using post-it notes and yeah, it didn't quite make sense. But there are some constants. For instance, this bag is always around to the left. We can't reach it, but we can touch it with the bottle. If you then smash the bottle on a tree, you can slash the bag open to find a box of cracker mix. There's also a literal LucasArts hint line which you can call as well.
1900740JEDI.
Oh yeah, as well as hint books, sometimes adventure game companies would allow players to call up and ask for hints. This is something that Sierra did as well, I think.
I wonder what stories could be told by the people on these lines. It's wild to think about how this was even a thing, honestly. Alas, the walkthrough killed the hint line star. The lady on the line of this one is certainly fed up with the questions about Dinky Jungle.
I'm lost in the Dinky Island jungle in Monkey 2.
Look, there are only 2 ways out of the room you're in. Figure it out, Knucklehead.
I have to wonder if this was added to preempt the questions from people lost in this jungle, because walking off this screen gets you back to the beach. The special edition replaces the hint line lady with this other guy, but even so, they recorded lines for both versions, which is neat.
This hint line isn't a relevant part of the critical path, but it is an interesting little part of the game.
Oh, and don't forget to ask about the Monkey Island 1 stump joke.
Who thought up that dumb stump joke?
I'm tired of hearing about that damn stump. Do you have any idea how many calls I get a day about that? Don't ask me about it again.
And this.
Where do babies come from?
What are you, a pervert?
Anyway, we've mucked about enough. Let's finish this. Progression here is pretty straightforward. I mean, we have a cracker, we have a parrot.
And yes, Polly does want a cracker.
And when you do feed the parrot, it reveals more information.
Head due east from the pond to the dinosaur.
So we head to the area described, and we meet the pirate again. We only have one cracker, but we did get some mix. And you know what? Just add some seawater from a martini glass. Though make sure you distill it first, otherwise you'll have something so salty you might think you were in a Star Wars fan forum. Basically, you just repeat the cracker pirate maneuver until you find a rather large X. As per the 3 trials, Guybrush is very well trained in treasure huntery, so this is a cinch. But now we've hit concrete, which is unusual. Luckily, the jungle holds a box of dynamite you can crowbar open. And there's a rope around, we'll need that too. Once you blow up the concrete, Guybrush descends into a somewhat familiar place. We just need to get across to the other side. And we can get to that side by making a grappling hook out with a crowbar and rope. And get ourselves into the predicament seen in the intro.
And you showed up about 3 days later. Will you help me now?
Anything to shut you up. That has to have been the longest story I ever heard.
Yeah, you're telling me.
So this means at this point the game is no longer framed through Guybrush's story. Not that it makes a tremendous difference, of course, but still.
Pretty promptly, Guybrush falls down the dark pit and awakes to find himself in a dark room. No matches left, but maybe we can find a light switch?
Boo!
Eek!
Hello, Guybrush.
Oh no.
Well, here we go. Another showdown with LeChuck. This time in a series of industrial tunnels, looking almost like the back rooms of a theme park. Weird. But there is a big twist here.
I am your brother.
No. That's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Despite it being an obvious silly homage to Star Wars, it's still a pretty big revelation. We'll get back to that though, it's a whole can of worms lore-wise. First, LeChuck has his own voodoo doll, of Guybrush.
Say, that wouldn't happen to be a voodoo doll, would it?
Why, yes, as a matter of fact, it is a voodoo doll.
Well, that's not good. LeChuck was very prepared for us to escape. It's refreshing to see a villain not underestimate the protagonist. When LeChuck uses his voodoo doll, all it seems to do is teleport Guybrush, which means we can fight back instead of dying horribly.
I mean, it's a LucasArts game. We ain't gonna die.
It also means it's similar to the encounter with the big bad in the original game, in that LeChuck constantly sends you to different areas where you have a limited time to grab certain things. It's much more involved than the one in the secret of Monkey Island though, where all you had to do was squirt him with root beer. They even lampshade that here.
Aha! Gotcha!
Take this, brother! Hey, nothing's happening.
Root beer only works on ghosts, Guybrush. Having been resurrected, I'm not a ghost anymore.
This fight is mostly straightforward, but there are a few things you can easily miss. The main goal really is to get onto a level playing ground with LeChuck, to once again build a voodoo doll of your own. Though I'll be honest, I have to wonder how LeChuck even built the doll he's using.
How could he even have the ingredients though? It's not like Guybrush's dead parents are around.
Holy cow, these are my parents!
Oh, well, it's not like we left a trail of... Oh.
Something of the thread, something of the head, something of the body, and something of the dead.
Huh. I guess we kinda did.
Well, I suppose if we want to build our own voodoo doll, we can also use Guybrush's dead parents. If LeChuck is Guybrush's brother as he claims, then this should work. So you take a skull and also rifle through the drawers to find a syringe for voodoo doll stabbery. Perfect. That just leaves his clothes, some hair, and a bodily fluid. Ugh, zombie fluids. Oh, and there's a plain voodoo doll in one of the back rooms to use as a base. For the fluid ingredient, you just need to give LeChuck a handkerchief he got from Stan automatically, which he'll just blow into. You don't even have to trick him into it.
There are a lot of bodily fluids that can easily go around. You gotta be careful with them.
The clothing is a bit more tricky to figure out. There's a room with a grog machine here, kinda like the one on Melee. Wait, no, that is the one from Melee. How can it be here?
It brings back painful memories.
I'll bet. By using this machine, a coin rolls out, which LeChuck bends over to pick up. And then Guybrush can...
What?
So, the final ingredient is some hair, and you can get a bit of LeChuck's beard by trapping it in the elevator doors before he zaps you away.
Aha! Hey! Ow! Ow!
The elevator itself takes you upwards, and this back alley, it's familiar, isn't it? But we're beneath Dinky Island, not Marley Island. And that's the place we met LeChuck for the first time. Again, something from Marley, like the vending machine. This can't be right. Anyway, this back alley is a place to get respite. I mean, this whole battle with LeChuck is incredibly unsettling. This is genuinely the scariest LeChuck ever is in the series, stalking you and genuinely wanting Guybrush to suffer and die.
Even the music and sounds here just make me feel unsafe. I love it.
Now you're gonna get it.
It's a surgical glove. That doesn't seem to work.
Either way, we have what we need to make the doll, and then you can mix it up in the juju bag, head back down, and fight on a level playing field.
Hey, Guybrush. That's pretty good, Guybrush. But not good enough to stop me.
And for the finishing blow...
I wonder what would happen if I tore the leg off this thing.
My god, that man had a family! Although I suppose we're his family now.
Boom. LeChuck defeated, again. A pretty humiliating defeat this time too. A dog even takes one of his severed limbs away.
What?
Come over here.
Guybrush, don't go over there.
No way. I'm not that stupid.
But I want you to... take my mask off. See the true face of your brother.
Wait, mask? What mask?
I tell you, I'm... dying here. Take the mask off.
Don't do it.
Oh, all right. I'm coming over.
God damn it, Guybrush.
My god, you're... my creepy brother Chucky.
What? Did you think I was kidding before?
What? What?
Hey, you kids! You're not supposed to be in here.
Ah, so there you are.
What?
What's going on?
We're scolding you for running off. Your mother and I were very concerned.
Thank you for hunting down your brother like we asked, Chucky dear.
Okay, this is it. This is the big twist ending. One that has divided fans of the series for nearly 30 years now. It plants the idea that this pirate world, the strange world of Monkey Island, was all just a child's imagination. Or is it?
But that's the game. And it's a really creepy and dark ending, but you know what? I like it.
Whichever way you slice it, this whole time, LeChuck, or perhaps Chucky depending on your interpretation, had us exactly where he wanted us. He built the voodoo doll, he was one step ahead, he led us into the big whoop trap. Because this game isn't called Monkey Island 2, Guybrush's Next Adventure, this is Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge. And oh boy do they follow through on that. It's a bit of a gobsmacker though, telling the player that they were never a pirate, just a kid playing pretend.
But I would actually say this vibe existed in the first game as well. And some of you caught me foreshadowing that in the last video.
And this guy is pretty much the direct opposite of a pirate, even if he wants to be one for some reason.
It's almost like Guybrush is just a kid at a carnival, playing pretend.
Between trolls in costume, trademarked island names, vending machines, it's all full of anachronisms and steeped in a weird sense of showmanship like a carnival ride. I mean, they even refer to the voodoo lady as the fortune teller in this one. You might read into all of this as just being part of the series comedy, and it quite often is. But with this ending, it suggests something a bit darker. That the world we thought we knew is a lie. Simply a stage for actors to play in. Why else would Dinky and Marley seem to be in the same place? Guybrush was never meant to see behind the scenes, and neither were we. But even from the outset, Guybrush is actually addressing an audience.
I can't help but feel like I've been ripped off. I'm sure you're feeling something similar. When I find Big Whoop, I'll become a legend among pirates for generations to come.
Not that there aren't any outs offered for this ending though. Chucky's glowing red eyes in Elaine's brief scene suggests that it's just LeChuck casting a spell on Guybrush. And that's pretty much the line the rest of the series goes with.
I wonder what's keeping Guybrush. Oh, I hope LeChuck hasn't cast some horrible spell over him or anything.
I'm somewhat glad there's a way out of this because it meant there could be more piratey adventures. But ultimately, I'm not really sure where I stand on it, honestly. It's incredibly interesting and bold, and it certainly puts a lot of the game into context. Even the language of this one is decidedly more carnival. Lots of people in costume, advertisements and such everywhere. Even Guybrush's wanted poster has a fake mustache, like a child pretending to be older might have. It's weird to notice all of this when you're looking through that lens.
Plus, the whole premise of Monkey Island is, what if you could step into the world of a pirate theme park ride?
As for the whole brother thing, it's hard to say. I think the game wants you to believe that this whole twist revelation is the truth. I mean, the two voodoo dolls both worked, but that might only confirm that the skeletons we saw were relatives of LeChuck instead. But what exactly does this mean for the big bad pirate villain? It certainly doesn't seem like he knew Guybrush intimately in the first game like a brother would. That one very much set it up as their first meeting. The brotherly revelation only truly makes sense if you believe the pirate world is fake. But let's say that you don't. What else could this mean? I have my own personal headcanon which I'll get into by Tales of Monkey Island because it's more relevant to that story. Mostly it's to do with this line.
We are bound to one another.
Perhaps brothers is just a convenient metaphor for being bound by destiny. But who knows? Well, Ron Gilbert does probably, but he ain't telling us. Either way, you might buy what the ending is saying, or just see it as a way for Guybrush to feel compassion for LeChuck, so he can get him close enough to cast the spell. All of that is entirely possible and the game points in both directions. The fake pirate world is definitely bolder and more interesting, but the illusion being an illusion is probably more fun, and it led to more games in general. As for Big Whoop itself, what actually was it? Well, the phrase Big Whoop is literally just a sarcastic phrase that means it's not important. The fact that Big Whoop doesn't exist is signposted from the outset. It's all a big joke on Guybrush and the player.
Surprise! None of this mattered!
There are so many theories surrounding Monkey Island, though most of them come from the games Ron Gilbert was involved with, and maybe a bit of Tales. Curse and Escape are good games in their own right, but kind of ignore the story to focus on the soap drama of Guybrush, Elaine and LeChuck, and it's pretty fun. What else can I say about Monkey Island 2? I've talked a lot in this video already, and I gotta say, I love this game, and I do think it's my favourite simply by virtue of how strange it all is. Actually writing about it though, I've noticed it has a lot more flaws than I initially thought. Would you believe me if I told you my initial idea for the title of this video was Perfecting the Adventure Game? You know, as a lead on from my first title. Yeah, I don't think this game is perfect, far from it actually, but it's a very unique and fun adventure game that scratches a lot of great itches. It has some good game design when it's not pulling a monkey wrench or burying items in the pixels, and it has plenty of great jokes when it's not punching down weirdly, which isn't too often thankfully. It's odd, this one does feel a little more dated in a few aspects, more so than its predecessor. That said, I do still like it a lot, and its strengths and pure weirdness probably make it my favourite in the series. Even if the pirate world is just a fantasy of Guybrush's, as this game seems to imply.
So what did this ending mean? What is the secret of Monkey Island, and what is Big Whoop, if anything at all? Are these real things, or are they just red herrings? Well, tragically, we wouldn't find out, and I'm doubtful we ever really will.
Ron Gilbert left LucasArts in 1992 to found the beloved children's adventure game company Humongous Entertainment, taking his ideas for Monkey Island 3 with him. Monkey Island as a series would lie dormant, somewhat painted into a corner by the weird and controversial twist ending. I mean, where do you go from here? You'd almost have to give it a reboot to get it working again. But 6 years later, it re-emerged, rejuvenated, with lush cartoon graphics and animation, and full voice acting for the first time in the series. A fan favourite for many and a controversial entry for others. Once again, there'll be a lot of ground to cover. Where do I stand on it? I suppose you'll have to wait and see. Join me next time for the Curse of Monkey Island.